Well, hey, I hope everybody is doing wonderfully today. And just jumping on here a little bit before 7 in the morning, having a cup of coffee with you. I actually have been up since 3 a.m. Yep. One of my favorite parts of midlife is the sleep wackadoodliness. Like, I don't even know what to say about that, but that's where we are today. This is going to be one of these impromptus. I was thinking about something. I thought, well, I'll set up my mic. I'll take up my cup of coffee upstairs. Again, not going to edit that out, and I'll visit with you because I had an amazing time last night. I was out with my sister, who's been on the podcast, my sister Lee, and her family, and my two kids for celebrating my birthday that I had just recently, as you know, and just amazing night. And I think part of that was just, I don't know, remember when you were kids or when we were kids and you were like really excited to do something, have something happen, and it did, and there's still kind of that residual like energy left. I think that was part of what woke me up. But the beauty really is once I'm woken up and I've gotten my big butt out of bed and I've gone to the bathroom, well, I'm not going back. I'm not going back. So it got me thinking. I did a little reading and a little journaling this morning, and I thought, well, let me hop on. Let me share. Let me share. I'm in my sweatshirt. I have makeup on from yesterday. I brushed my hair, but that's where we're at today. So if you want to join and listen a little bit more about some of the thoughts that I had after my 3 a.m. wake up, then keep listening.
Welcome. This is Midlife Crisis to a Centered Life Thriving, a podcast that teaches women in midlife to unapologetically stop silencing their dreams and start designing the lives they want to live in. I'm your host, Dr. Natalie, and as a clinical psychologist of the last 2 decades and a twice divorced single mother myself, I not only know how hard it can feel heading into midlife, I am living it right here with you. I have taken all the many failed attempts and lessons learned in my own life and combine it with my extensive clinical experience to give you the tools you need to make midlife the best time in your life. No joke. So let's get started.
Welcome back, everybody. All right. So this coffee tastes like you should shut the hell up until I finish it, is what my cup of coffee says today. Not actually how I'm feeling, though, because as I said in the intro, woke up and just couldn't get back to sleep. But I think I was more waking up on a good note than a note of didn't like what was happening or whatever. I mean, midlife just sucks, right? I mean, how many of you get up in the middle of the night? I have my hands like literally in the hoodie of my pockets right now. I feel like I'm just like all cozied up with my cup of coffee. But I'm telling you, 3 a.m. mornings, they're pretty routine. I'm hoping that as my hormones regulate in some fashion through perimenopause into menopause, like when I know they go down, but like once they're not up, down, up, down, up, down all the time. And I am considering HRT, actually talking to somebody about that now, and we'll take you on that journey with me if that is what I decide to do. But I'm hoping once they regulate that I can sleep a little bit better. My sleep hygiene has been spot on, though. And that's like what I was thinking of as I woke up. Like, this is kind of, I don't always wake up at 3 a.m. I do actually wake up at 4:15 to 5, which is my usual time when my alarm would go off. So getting up at 3 is like an hour early, just to put it out there. But I think I've moved my wake time to earlier in the morning and rearranged my life around that rather than fight the fact that my biology is going to make me wake up earlier. In fact, years ago, I want to say I blogged about this, or at least I did videos about it. I'm sure I've talked about it, maybe even on the podcast. But years ago, like I want to say not quite 10 years ago, but 6, 7 years ago, I was trying to get into the morning routine of getting up at 5. I was trying so hard that I bought a small miniature Mr. Coffee that was on my nightstand and would automatically make coffee at 5 in the morning to help inspire me to get my butt out of bed. Because that was like my first journey into I want to be blogging more and I want to be writing. And it was before I developed everything with Learn to Love Your Story, but it definitely was a habit that I then got to lean into through that. So I was thinking about all that. I was thinking about how small steps, small habits that we form have big impact in our lifetime, but we don't pay them the respect that we need to. And I want to talk about it today because I want to talk about the fact that I think if in midlife you were putting more mind and mindfulness into some small steps that are the kinds of things that you need to employ to be the future version of yourself that you want to be, um, I think you're actually going to alleviate a lot of stress. Because is this you? Like, okay, I'm gonna take a sip of coffee. Is this you? Are you the person who in midlife has journals, has podcasts you listen to, maybe you have picked up this meditation thing, you've got a couple apps on your phone about that, you're working on your nutrition, you're following a couple different people with that. At any given time, you're in the middle of maybe you're fasting or intermittent fasting, or you're ketoing, or you're something, Mediterranean diet, whatever. You're like in that. You're trying to exercise. You better get that protein in, maybe collagen because our skin is sagging. Oh, yeah, I got to do my supplements. Maybe exercise, maybe weightlifting, strength training, right? Like we need to build the muscle because muscle equals longevity, and got to do all those things. And on top of that, just stay in the life that you already have, which I'm sure is full of madness, like mine is. Like you got a job, you've got a family, you've got obligations that you got to get to. So, your to-do list is ridiculous at this point. Like it's not little by any stretch. So if you're in midlife, like try to kind of riddle yourself out of some of the stuff that's going down for us ladies here and men, maybe, just maybe, you've given yourself a little too many things to do and it's feeling like a slog. And even listening to my podcast is one of those things. I hope to be a sound of some reason in the middle of all that chaos, please. So that's what I was pondering and journaling a little bit about this morning as I was having I'll be honest, this is the last cup of my first pot of coffee. All right. So as I was doing that, I was thinking to myself, it's one of the most powerful things that I have done in the last decade of my life is some very small habits. And I didn't do very many of them, right? I just, for the life of me, couldn't fold very many new things in. The programming and conditioning of my middle adulthood, my earlier adulthood had really directed that traffic. So I couldn't interrupt any of the have to's. I had to get to work. I had to parent in a certain way. I had to do work in a certain way. I had to do life in a certain way. So eking in these little new habits that I have found to have profound significance for me really was honestly an effort. It honestly was. And so important. And let me tell you the top 3 that I've done. So here they are: dishes, laundry, making my bed. You're probably literally about to turn this podcast off as you hear me say those three things. I personally, 10 years ago, had I heard any fool on the interwebs saying anything like that, I would have been like, I'm done. And we're done here. But just hear me out. As with all things that I have taught you, it isn't about the things. It isn't about the content of the three things I just said: laundry, dishes, making my bed. What it isn't those three things. There's nothing magical about those three things. It's the habit formation that I've created around those three things that have rocked my world. And I'll explain that a little bit more as we talk today. And I want you to use the principles that I'm talking about here. They're basic habit formation principles. I'm trying to remember the author. It's not Adam Grant. Who's the author of Atomic Habits? James Clear. James Clear wrote a book called Atomic Habits, and really wonderfully kind of makes the science not so sciencey, makes it really practical. So if you're interested in going down this a little bit further, I'm always a rabbit hole, diver. So I want to give you that option. He would be the one that I would advise reading about. Or reading his material, because I think it'll be helpful. But really the principle here is like, when you change really small things, but do them repetitively over and over, the significant impact into your life later is huge. So we'll start with, I didn't name those in any particular order. Actually, I think, so I didn't name them even in the order that I've done them in for myself. Laundry would have been the first one. And laundry, actually, I think, it's been about 10 years. It's been a little over 10 years. And I say that because I think I started that particular habit different before I had my daughter, and she just turned 10. So it's been a little bit longer than that. So that was my first habit that I changed. And the habit I changed was this. Instead of feeling in constant agony about how much laundry was in my house, and at the time I would have had myself, my son, and my husband that I was doing laundry for. Three people. It's not a huge amount, but it's a household of towels and all the extra universal things that happen on top of the fact that little boys go through clothes at least a couple times a day, and that was kind of the age range of my now 21-year-old son back then. So it's a significant amount of just heaviness in your brain, right? Like, gotta get the laundry done. Oh my God, gotta get the laundry done. So I structured, this is going to sound just bonkers, but I structured actually in part my work week differently to accommodate having a day that wasn't a weekend day, was a weekday that I did laundry and some other cleaning around the house. Again, those habits didn't stick by any stretch of the imagination, at least not by then. So but the laundry one did. So I have a laundry day, and what happens is across time, what I noticed is it cleared up a lot of cognitive loading for me. Like, I wasn't worried about, and then when will I get that done? And then will I get that? Like, laundry was weighing on me, oddly, right? I was carrying that into all the things that I did in my life. So by finding a laundry day and always religiously sticking to that day, of course you're sick, you travel, there's reasons why you might not. But for the most part, I always stuck to that day. And making it a day that wasn't a day that should have been for me, like restoration days, like weekend days for me, that was how my work was scheduled. But I did like a 4.5 and then a 4-day work week, full time, in order to kind of accommodate this like household chore day. And I chose Monday of all things, which in hindsight, I might have done that differently. Anyway, I might have done that differently because think of all the Monday holidays that your work will give you. That once Monday was my day off, I just basically voided a bunch of work holidays. But anyway, I digress. Anyway, this is also the last time that I had a W-2 job. Yeah, so it had to be more than 10 years ago. Anyway, laundry was huge to me. It just weighed on me. And I do think that some of that was pre-programming from family of origin. So one of the chores that I had as a child was laundry. I don't mind laundry, actually. I don't mind folding laundry or something, I don't know, mindful and meditative about it. but in that household, there was at least, in the chunk of time that I'm thinking about it, there was 2 adults and 3 kids living in the house. So there's a lot of laundry and like loads and loads, like 6, 7, 8 loads. And so, that would be one of the chores that I would do during the week, or at least assist my mom doing during the week. So, one of us was throwing stuff in, and it was constant. It was like constant. And we lived in a 3-story house when I was a kid. Here in Minnesota, everybody has a basement. And so the dungeon gross basement is where the laundry room is. My bedroom was on the top floor. So you're talking about it was a lot of work, and it was constant because my mom didn't have a laundry day. So this weird habit that I created for once a week laundry time, like legitimately cleaned up a lot of chaos in my mind. It didn't fix all my problems, please, but it made such a huge difference. And I realized laundry is kind of like, brushing your teeth. We always do it at the same time, hopefully every day. And if you're doing it daily, then your dentist is, like, yeah, pretty cool. No cavities, nothing, no big deal here. If you stop doing it on the daily and you just do it when you think about it or you think you have time for it, you're going to have a lot of cavity. You're going to have problems at the dentist, right? Like you're going to have teeth falling. You'll have snaggle teeth by the time you get to my age. Like really, seriously, you don't, put fluoride on this. There's going to be problems. So, I realized that there was this subtle thing about the laundry thing that always I was like, that fixed some things. I didn't quite have my finger on it. James Clear hadn't written his book, Atomic Habits. I didn't know. So then when I moved into this townhouse where I live now and separated and divorced my second husband, one of the things that I started to employ was making my bed every morning. Now, let me say, I can make that bed in less than 30 seconds. This is not a huge time investment for me, nor a mind investment. I make it the very same way every day. I take it down the same way. So I am somebody that has probably, I don't know, let's guess. I think there's at least 10 pillows on my bed. Yeah. Yep. I'm her. Like halfway down the bed, there's pillows everywhere. Yes, I am one of those people. That being said, I have a way that I like stack them to the side. I'm the only one that sleeps in my queen size bed. So I stack them to the side. Like there's a person basically along the other side, and I sleep on my side of the bed. Why do we do that? I don't know. Anyway, I do that and it's easy peasy lemon squeezy. Just, like pull that sheet down, pull the comforter up, put those pillows back in place. We're done, less than 30 seconds. But I started to employ that right about the time that I moved in here, fairly shortly after I had gotten my room all put together. And what I noticed about that new habit, because certainly it didn't have like a direct effect on, laundry consumption is a big deal. If my clothes aren't clean, I got to wear dirty clothes out into the world. If my teeth aren't clean, I'm going to have snaggletooth by the time I get to, my late 40s, 50s, 60s. So making your bed, if you never do it, no one would know, though. And so what I realized about adding that particular habit back into my life, because I used to do it when I was younger. I did. I used to have a very particular room, particular space. I was doing something that was just for me. And I was doing something just for me first thing in the morning. I was doing something just for me at night as I set the bed up correctly so the future me in the morning was going to have that bed made in 30 seconds. And I was investing in that thing that I talked about last time you heard from me, which is that relationship to build with yourself in midlife. Like, there is no one else on earth that benefits from my bed getting made, literally, because I don't sleep in a bed with somebody else. There's literally no one else that benefits from this but me. My door is shut. The cats that we live with, they're my daughters. Like, they don't even come in my, there's literally no one else. No one sees this room. Hello. Like, no, there's no other reason than to show myself the affection, the care that I know you like things to look nice, Natalie, and let me help you out by making sure the first thing in the morning that we do is do that so that you have that beautiful bed to look at as you walk in and out of this room all day. or whenever you walk in and out of that room. So I guess I don't always walk in and out of my bedroom all day, but I know it's there. It's there in my mind. And it had this similar relieving effect for me, right? Okay. So fast forward to Learn to Love Your Story and, me becoming more of a social media presence as I've built that brand. I would talk all the time about how dishes were a nemesis of mine. I hate dishes. I hate dishes. And I probably hate dishes similarly to the laundry thing. So laundry was the one that I chose to do in my family of origin because washing dishes multiple times a day for a family of, 5 people. Sometimes when my older siblings came back to live or they'd bring their friends, it was like 7 or 8 people living in one house. It was a big house, but it's a lot of dishes. Holy crud. So I didn't want any part of that. That was not, I don't know, it was not for me. And so there was certainly a mind block about dishes, but dishes it has chased me forever and ever and ever. Dishes in one of my marriages was like a boiling point fight multiple times. And, I'll just be honest, the other person was very gaslighting about it. Like, oh, I do them all the time. And I'm like, are you effing kidding me? Because I'm the only one in this house that I've seen that dish in that sink for bad, not the way to go about that in your marriage or with your roommates. But alas, dishes and I don't get along. Never got in a habit of it. But I was like pondering these things of like, okay, I did this with laundry, and laundry to me feels like home. Feels like, oh, it's that day and I'll get the stuff ready today and I'll get it all ready and I'll put it out and I'll fold it and I'm good. And I did it. And now it's done for the week. All I got to do is use my beautiful wash clothes and put them into my hamper and I'm good. I tried to go on a 2-week cycle. That was nonsensical because you'd run out of things. And I'm like, nope, we'll just stick to the weekly. It's fast then. I get it done fast. Lovely. Kind of, that paired with and doing something for myself. Because who's the one that's freaking out that there's a dish full of dishes? Like I would talk on Learn to Love Your Story about sometimes self-care is setting boundaries, and sometimes setting boundaries is just saying you need your time, right? And the to-do list in your house does not need your time and does not benefit you. When you serve the to-do list, does it take care of you? Does it make you feel warm inside? Probably not. But we've talked ourselves into believing, man, if I could get that to-do list done, oh, girl, woo, life be good. Life be good. Mm-mm. It would not be good. It would not be good. It's just going to be another set of to-do items that show up the next day. It's all in a cycle like that, right? So this false sense of if I check it all off, then I will feel accomplished. If that's the routine you're in, if you just like the pretty paper and the to-do list and the check marks give you dopamine hits, good for you. Go for it. But for those of us that had to-do lists like our equity in the world, our worthiness in the world was tied to how many of those items got done, and we didn't ever get them all done because we have been obnoxiously expecting ourselves to do far too many things. Yeah, well, I was like pondering that around this idea of dishes, because what I had been doing was just giving myself a lot of self-compassion, which works, right? A lot of self-compassion about it. But what kept nagging at me is dishes nag at me like laundry used to nag at me. And maybe if I employed this small habit of doing something every day with it, then instead of like looking at it as a to-do list item, but that it's always somewhere in process, right? My laundry is always somewhere in process. What if I could shift my thinking and shift my behavior in such a way that the sink is mostly clear most days? Not always clear, not clear all days, and not clear all day long, but just I had to like completely reconfigure it. The details of how I've decided that dishes and dish work gets done is not what this podcast is about. The idea here is I did this and I pair it with my morning coffee. In many respects, I will clear a sink of dishes, not at night, not when I'm exhausted, not when I'm trying to fit in, errands, basketball practice, finishing up things for work, getting things prepared for tomorrow on the tail end of a day that I've worked really hard in the time of the day where my bandwidth is pretty much depleted. Like my brain turns off around 7, like legit turns off. Obviously, if I'm getting up at 3 in the morning, that might be part of that. But anyway, so the dishes and I had a revamp. We did. We had a redesign, and it's now one of those very small things that I do every single day, pretty much every single day for myself in some fashion. That's an investment just for me. Now, I have a 10-year-old who also needs to be doing more chores around the house and will become parts of this. But at this point, for the purposes of the podcast and my thoughts that I wanted to share with you today, these are the kinds of ways that you're going to show up in your life to build a relationship with yourself. It isn't something fantastic like go to a Himalayan salt cave and meditate and journal and, find yourself and your life's purpose and midlife. All those things are wonderful things. If you want to do a retreat like that, I highly recommend, if you have the money and the time. I have neither, but if you have the money and the time, if you want to go to Bali, do you do you. It isn't those things, though. It's never those things that make the differences. The things that make the differences are brushing your teeth every day, making your bed, making sure you have clean clothes in your closet, and making sure you have clean dishes. It's showing up. Because if you think about it, and for some of us, this is a deep wound. And I'm speaking to the women right now that have abandonment issues, that have, you go into relationships and you're, wholly clinging on, even when you know that this partner is terrible for you, terrible, because the fear of losing that feels bigger than the fear of staying in something that's not enough for you. I'm talking to you in particular, but all of us to some extent need to build this new relationship with us, with our person, not with the idea of us that the culture gives us of where we should be right now, or what a good woman looks like, not, with what the expectations of our families or our friends or our workplaces are. We need a relationship with the person that's just us. And it's gonna come through small acts like this, and small consistent acts like this build the trust that you need. I mean, I want you to think about the relationships that are most significant to you. I was sitting with all those people last night, like all of them smiling, loving each other, all with different, very different relationships to me. My kids, very different than my relationship with my sister, which is more like a friend, my sister-in-law, her wife, all very different relationships, but all people that, these are my people. They are the people that I would have called when I need someone, and they show up for me. And so I was looking around and I was thinking to myself, what makes a difference there is the consistency. I've built trust, and I lean into these people because I know they're dependable, right? You have not been dependable for you, and by design, right? So the middle part of our adult lives, men and women, but women more so than men because we caretake more things, or have been acculturated to caretake more things. But we are oriented towards what others need, not what we need. We are oriented towards reading a room and not reading ourselves. And so we haven't been consistent. In fact, what we tend to do is if I'm running late, I'll put down the toothbrush and take the kid to school, right? I'll sacrifice making my bed. I'll sacrifice washing those dishes, making sure the laundry is done if it's only for me. I won't do that though if it's for somebody else. And so it's these small things, and it's maybe you may have good habits. I don't even want to put out here that your habits are what we need to attack, everything has to be changed. Mindfully, in a more consciously aware way, show up to them and ask yourself, is the way that I'm doing this best serving me? Right? Does it show myself love and kindness and compassion? Am I doing my dishes in a way that feels like a check mark on a to-do list that somebody else could see that I did that would check my worthiness? Or am I doing it in a way that it's, oh, then I always have my favorite mug when I sit down for my coffee, right? Which way is it for you? Because it really should be the latter. It really should. So I want you to just take away today from my little ponderings here in the morning hours. I just want you to take away this idea of it's not the big stuff. It's the small stuff. And there's lots of reasons why the small stuff is going to significantly impact you. And some of it, the content of the stuff, dishes, laundry, this doesn't come across as something that's like, that's going to help me usher into midlife, but it will if you're doing it intentionally in such a way that it makes your life a little easier. If the way that you're showing up to it is making your life easier, and it's not I have to, but I want to do it this way, and then you consistently do it that way, and it just feels like a soft, warm hug or a mug of coffee. So those are my ponderings. That is my podcast for the day. Dishes and laundry and making your bed. That was my podcast. But I'm hoping somebody out there heard what they needed to hear today. I'm hoping that, it made you a little more curious about, maybe there are some of these little things that I could start doing, but doing in a way that's more in service to me so I can build that relationship and trust with myself, that I become dependable for me and I don't self-sacrifice or self-betray for the sake of others all the time. It's going to be huge. I promise you, it will always be huge. And I also promise you, you're not alone out there. Like if you haven't started to think about any of that stuff, you're not alone out there. I hadn't started to think about any of that stuff. And my meditation practice over the last 10 years and my mindfulness practice over the last 10 years, all of that has helped me to build what I call that observer self, so that I can kind of take that step back and kind of watch my life from a different angle and stay curious about, is this serving me? Because that served me when I changed laundry. But is dishes and the way I'm interfacing with that and just staying compassionate that they're not always done, is that serving me enough? Or do I need to evolve here? Do I need more than that? And then to stick with it and to keep doing it and to keep doing it and to trust yourself that you will show up for you. That builds that relationship to you. Now you're understanding yourself, but you're also trusting yourself, which is a huge step in that relationship building phase between you and you as we head into midlife. So know that you're not alone in, you may never have thought of any of these things. So I just want you to stay curious about it. You don't have to jump into doing anything new this week. If you want to go down the rabbit hole, look at James Clear's book, Atomic Habits. It's very useful for habit formation in any way. But I just want you to kind of think about what I said today and maybe chew on it. Maybe because you're going to do this, right? You're going to like this episode. You're going to comment. You're going to share with someone else this episode. So if you do those three things, my friends, maybe talk to one of those friends that you shared it with. Maybe you blasted it out on your social media, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, wherever you put it. And I want you to just remind them, hey, let's talk about this. What did you think about that? I thought she was just loopy. I didn't get anything she said, which is totally fine. But talk about it. I want you to, you're not alone. You're not alone. And maybe you have better wisdom about this than I do. I'd love to read that in the comments. So please feel free to put that out there. And just know that we are all in this midlife thing together.
Because I am a licensed clinical psychologist in the state of Minnesota, I have to make sure at the end of each of these episodes that I give you the disclaimer that none of the material that I talk about in these podcasts is meant to replace any kind of therapy or formal medical or mental health treatment. And in fact, anything that I offer on my website, my coaching programs, any kind of psychoeducational materials that I release are not a replacement for that level of care. So just take that into account when you listen. This is information for you, and hopefully you find it of value, both as an educational tool and for your entertainment. And I also want to mention that if anyone you know is in a mental health crisis, needs additional help, I always include these two crisis resources. They're available to anybody. Pick up the phone and dial 988 for the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. And you can always visit their website at suicidepreventionlifeline.org. Additionally, there's actually a crisis text line. So if you're not somebody that likes to pick up the phone, text HOME, home, to 741-741 to the crisis text line. And you can find them online at crisistextline.org. Thank you for listening to my podcast, and I hope that you like and follow me wherever you get your podcasts, and maybe consider leaving me a review. It always helps me to keep this podcast relevant when I know what you want to hear about.